Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith. And if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. And if you love this podcast and you want some more tips and tricks on how to improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are a ton of instructional videos there. You can find the links down below. Today, my friends, before you go and hit those links, today I've got my friend, Ryan Godleski in the house. Welcome, my friend.
How we doing, man? How's it in Colorado?
Good. I'm in the Canada, not the Colorado. Or are you in the Colorado?
I thought you were in Colorado. Shit, I completely effed that up. For some reason, I thought you lived in Colorado.
All good. It's all good. Not a big deal at all, man. So I'm in the Canada. Whereabouts are you at?
Jersey.
Ah, sweet.
You know what it was? I think like your whole philosophy. I felt like it was a lot of Colorado in it. That's what I projected on you.
Nice. Honestly, I could see myself. I have a buddy that's in Colorado, and he's got some pretty similar vibes. So it would make sense. I
I
feel like
completely,
from what I gather, it's a very accurate assumption.
I completely projected that on you. Like, you know how like we project think on other people. I had no doubt you were from Colorado.
That is awesome.
What the
Well,
hell?
it's all good, my man. Nonetheless, I'm still glad. Well, obviously, I'm not still glad. I'm just glad to have you here. Good
Appreciate it.
seeing you here. I'm very grateful that you're hopping on this episode. We've been chatting for a while. You got some good vibes, man. And I just wanted to have a conversation with you and just like shoot the shit, see what kind of like enlightening conversations we have, and maybe ask you a couple questions along the way. How's that?
Sounds great, Kyle. Appreciate it, brother.
Sick. So, my friend, how is it that you impact the lives of the people around you?
I try to bring positivity to everybody. I feel like a lot of people are selling themselves short or not doing what their purpose is. I feel like everybody, traps himself into boxes and keeps themselves locked in. And I was one of them for a long time. That like I was stuck with these negative beliefs or the thoughts that people put onto me or the boxes they put me in, or just like people give you like a restriction of like you're supposed to do like XYZ. You're supposed to follow this path, and I try to project to people like, no, like don't do what everybody else wants you to do. Do what the hell you want to do. Follow your dreams. And I feel like almost nobody does that. Like, and even like in school and stuff, I looked at things like, oh, you can be whatever you want. You can follow your dreams, be whatever you want to be. And they tell you that, but everything else, nothing in that is telling you anything like that. All it's telling you to do is like be an obedient citizen, get a job, work, retire. Like it's just like it's almost a trap, and I just feel like it just sucks that so many people are like living so much lower than their potential or who they could be, and especially for men and dads, I just feel like nobody is showing up as themselves and nobody is being truly happy, and I just feel like it's like this negative mantra of like, you're a dad, you're like not cool anymore, like you have like you're like overworked and like underpaid. And I don't necessarily mean like money. I mean just like the credit you get for what you do and with your kids, and like, you'll probably roughly be upset, you won't sleep enough, and you'll just deal with it. You just deal with it because like this is the life, this is the game, this is what you have to do. You have to support your family, and if you got to be miserable to do it, you just do it. And I just feel like, that's no way to live. I mean, it's like everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
Totally. It's like we accept our on. I actually have this theory, and it's, before we were chatting, I was chatting about my like epiphanies and stuff, and I really recognize that this is it. Like this is the only time that we get to our recollection experience this existence, and I find that on until we make the concrete decision to change the trajectory and decide in a different way and learn something new. And I like Alex Hormozy's quote on learning, and learning is defined by same circumstances, different behavior. And when people, I guess, wash away the shackles of the narratives of other people, parents, and all with good intentions, of course. People are not saying these things out of a maliciousness, in my opinion. It's just that folks don't know what they don't know. And if we only understand one way, then we're never going to really explore another, because we're only going to be open to that one thing that we've just known. And I find that there is a misalignment, and where that misalignment is in is knowing within your gut, your intuition, just like a deeper sense where something just seems off. And what I am thinking now is that there is less when someone is feeling off, it's because that feeling knows better than what people are saying outside of us. So, for example, out of alignment, I could be depressed. It could be me not living in alignment that is creating that depression rather than falling into the person that I wish to be, which has alignment, which creates fulfillment, authenticity. But this story of you have to be miserable in order to exist, we have so much power over that ability to choose the direction. And it's tough, man. It's tough. And you know what? That's a lie. It's only tough when we're resistant to it. And that's where I
Just like,
really think it goes. Go for it.
the whole like old school mentality, like no pain, no gain, or like, you're not going to get anywhere unless like it's miserable, it sucks, or like grind, 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 grind. Like, you're not going to be happy, but you're going to deal with it. And just like, I just feel like, so many people are not where they want to be. They're not in alignment, but like they will not take any risk to remove themselves. They won't even try. They won't even consider it. Or like, as soon as you like, go to talk to like your friend or your mom, whoever it is, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about starting this business. They're like, oh no, you got a secure job, you got a pension, you got this, you got that. No, you can't do that. And then that dream is over. You don't bring it up again. You just smashed it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, I feel like if you start talking about your dreams and your goals, and anybody like that shoots them down or is negative about it, like maybe you shouldn't have that person in your circle. But I just feel like the majority of people are there, like in that situation. I feel like you share your goals and dreams, like most people are gonna be like, Kyle, you're nuts. Like, how the hell are you gonna do that? That's gonna be so hard. Like, how are you gonna start your own podcast? Like, from your bedroom? Like, what? From your house? Like, how are you gonna do that? And it's like, I'm doing it. Like now. Like, look, like it's happening. Like, and just like, the whole see it to believe it, and like, we switch it to like, if you believe it, then you'll see it, because like you
Mm-hmm.
have to like have the conviction that you can make this thing happen before you actually do it. Because if you don't, you'll never do anything about it. And like, I just, that was me for way too many years. And like, I had like to do lists and all these things, like almost like I do today, with like all these things I want to do and accomplish. And I had these lists and things, and I just never did any of them, just because I was like trapped in this world and just like hustle, 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 grind, and like the in-person personal training world. And just like, I made no attempt to leave this existence, and it was miserable, and I sucked. It sucked, and like I just chalked it up. I was like, this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life. Like this crazy grind, and like, thank God for like COVID, when everything shut down, when I had a second to like be like, hold on, let me figure this shit out. Like there has to be a better way. And without that time to kind of stop and think, I don't know if and I guess like also with me too, with I had like a traumatic injury, and that changed a lot of my trajectory. And I couldn't move my legs for like 9 months, and it was fucking terrible. But I feel like without that, I wouldn't be where I am now, because I had to like figure out another way to like pull or find some self worth. And of course, that was like very depressing for me, for like somebody that's like worked out their whole life and got to a certain level. And like, I was respected as like, this fit jack dude or whatever it was at the time. And then like all of a sudden now I can't walk. I don't have anything. Like everything that made me a man or anything that made me legit or have credibility, that is all gone. And obviously it depressed the shit out of me. But I had to find another way. I had to find another thing to hold on to like get myself back to this level. And like, I feel like when I got more in touch with myself with the meditation process, and I went through a pretty traumatic experience with that whole thing. I try to stay positive, and I guess I'll share everything. I'll be as honest as possible. So that was when I got hurt, it like I literally lost everything. Like I didn't make $1 for a year. And because of the way, I was in-person trainer, so I was like working at 4 or 5 gyms and doing like working like 70 hours a week, but I wasn't full-time in any one place. So when this thing happened, I had like no unemployment, no disability. So like literally, like my house is going in for foreclosure. My car got repossessed. Like people are showing up to collect bills like at my like on foot at my house, and like I was just like, completely fucking crushed. So like, my back was really against the wall. So like I got a lot more spiritual, and I had like, again, it was very traumatic. It's hard for me to talk about, but like I had a suicide attempt and I ended up in a mental hospital, and I had this whole like realization. And I think when you go through that, you have like this moment of like clarity, or it's almost like what I spoke about before, when like you don't like realize what you have until that thing is like you get a picture of when that thing is not here. So then I was like, there's no way I'm gonna not live to my best self. There's no way I'm gonna like ever feel like this again. Like you only have one of these lives. Like, you can't pass it up. And I just feel like so many people don't take advantage of what they have, and just like they're selling themselves short, and they never become what they want to be. And I just feel like, you probably end your life with like so much regret.
Mm.
It's just so sometimes I feel like some people got like, it's almost like something might have to like shake the shit out of you, like, or like, a rock bottom thing to make you be like, holy shit, like, I can't keep living like this. But like, it was a big moment for me to realize like, what you have and your potential. And if you told me like 10 years ago I'd be an online trainer, I'd be like, what? What the hell are you talking about? I was like so against like social media and this whole thing. And I just feel like, if you don't move with the movement, like you get left way behind. You got to stay up with the times and what people are doing, and just like, everything's changing. You got to constantly learn and grow. And what was top of mind research, or what was going on 10 years ago might not be today.
Mhm.
And just and then like, we could throw in all the bias and things like that. Just throws everything off too, especially with like more so from the mainstream. Like I almost look at it as like, mainstream. If mainstream tells you to do one thing, you do the complete opposite of that, whatever that thing is. In like any
Mhm.
situation, whether it's investing or health or this or that. um, but yeah, man, it was like an awful situation. Kind of, brought out the best in me, or just like made you see something. But I think a big part of that was like with the meditation and the breathing, and just being calm, just like calm down, and like how, because I just feel like I was so like anxiety filled, or just like always on the run, or like, I'd wake up in like a chaotic state where you're running, you're grabbing some of the food, you're getting to the gym, like, and then like I'm like almost like chasing the clock every day. Like, every day I was waking up at like 4 in the morning, leaving at 4:15, coming home at 10 p.m., just like running after something all day, and just like, never having like any grounding or any stability. And at the time, I didn't realize how much that sucked, or how much like chaos was in my head. But like, I see myself now, and I'm like, how the hell did I live like that? Like, it was like torture when your brain's going like a million miles an hour, every second. And you have no idea like what's going on. And just like, and as far as like the meditation, the breath work stuff, like I love it, man. Like it's just like, it's so cleansing. It's, all that stuff, the cold plunge, all that stuff, just like, brings you down, gets you like this, grounding to the surface, like for you to be these energetic fields. It's truly amazing. I just feel like I like my whole life, and even like I look at like, I feel like if I caught wind at this thing at like 18 or 17 years old, I couldn't imagine like the type of development, or like where I could be. And even like, even if I happen at 22 or 28, where I could be. And just like, I don't know, I'm just in the future, I'm just hoping I can like project this thing to like my children, so they can get a grasp of it earlier. Cause I just feel like if you get a grasp of like yourself, and understand yourself, and be aware of things going on, like you're at such an advantage. And I feel like, I'm damn near almost like 40 years old, and I'm like just starting to figure it out.
Totally. It's so crazy. I actually think I completely agree with the idea of like, what if, well, we can always play what if games, but thinking back on it, uh going back like early, just earlier in general, just exactly how you said, it's like having the cheat codes. I think when we find ourselves within ourselves and at a peace within ourselves to the best of our ability, having that grounding, then we have that we're above the water. We're not in the ocean of emotion. Oh, I like that. And exactly, we're not just like scrounging and stuff. And one thing that I can say for certain is that when I now understand the level of peace that mindfulness brings, I am no longer concerned about the what ifs of the past or the anticipations of the future.
Right.
And I think that what comes along with that mindfulness is a sense of internalized trust in just I know that if I go on like quote unquote robot mode, where if I find that my feels are getting a little worked up or if I'm getting really wound up, then I just go robot mode. I don't think and I just do. I just observe and I just act. And what I recognize is having the trust in the competence to act, even if it's, and one way you can look at it is mindlessness, where I'm not actually thinking of the actions, I am just doing and partaking. Or I can just think of it as a observing, like just watching things go, not thinking, mindfulness, being present, having that sense of peace while doing the things that I just some oftentimes pretty oftentimes just don't want to do. And do you think, this is a fun question, do you think that there is a do you think that really shitty point in time is necessary in order to awake this mindfulness or this trick, this ability, this thought, this expanse of the unlimited mind?
So I feel like a lot of people that have these epiphanies fall into something like this, or like have a situation like me. But in reality, you shouldn't need that. You should be able to find that anyway in yourself. And I just feel like even with me, like I was never living in the present. Either I was pissed off about the past or I was worrying about the future, and I was never in the here and now. And like even I think about being in like college or any of these things, and just like constantly being bothered by like things of the past, or fighting with freaking your girlfriend, or like whatever it is, and just like never being in peace, and just like, and I can't imagine how much that took away from me. And it's like like I said before, like everything was always like chaotic, like chaos, like no mindfulness, no grounding, and it's just insane that I used to live like that. And I find it even more insane that I think that this is how most people continue to live today. And then I feel like when you're all wound up like that, and then from there you're subject to like being very fearful, like being not that I would, but like if you turn on CNN or something, like they're probably going to tell you that either you're going to die or like the world's going to end within like a week or something like that,
Mhm.
or like some treacherous thing, it's all bad. And like people getting this, they're so scared, they change the way they live. They're scared. They were already scared to be themselves, and now they're really scared. Now they want to leave their house or like whatever it is, and just and I feel like to an extent it's like a psychological attack, but like we all fall into it.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Something I'm really, and this is a little bit more on the extreme parts, but Kendra and I don't really watch anything. We don't even have a Netflix subscription. We don't have a TV,
Yeah.
and our environment is very like a very controlled environment, and we have a wicked amount of communication, and that helps. The environment helps perpetuate that mindfulness. It's
Okay.
setting up the environment in order to find that peace. And in my mind, the intention is an inner peace. So it's looking at the things around and just being like, I know that gets me wound up. I know watching news gets me wound up. So I'm not going to watch that. I'm really mindful of the stuff that I like will look at on or the content that I consume. I have much more of a thought process of nourishing the mind rather than just feeding the mind. And with nourishing the mind and controlling the content, I become more mindful of, let's say, for example, scrolling. And the posts that I click on, I'm very mindful of because I don't want the algorithm to catch hold of something that maybe I just don't want to do, or just don't want to watch because the algorithm is going to pick it up. And the thing that people don't realize about social media is that social media is personalized to the person, it is catered to the person. So it is personalized, it is not personal. So it is reflecting the views that the person is pursuing and seeing and perceiving in the rest of their life. So it's like a cyclical thing where it just keeps on going until that cycle is stopped with conscious decision and conscious effort and saying like, I've just had enough. And that's when I think that's when, at least for myself, I recognize how, well, one, how wound up I was just with not even anxiety, but I'll say excitement as well.
Right.
So the extremes of feeling really good and feeling really low. And then what I found is in decreasing the clutter, especially just thoughts through journaling and stuff like that. And just, I challenge my thoughts often, and I just ask myself questions. I have an internal debate basically. And what I found is chill and like finding that it's just like anything in existence, homeostasis, right? Where you're at rest. When you're too excited, when you're really excited, it's good to work yourself down back to homeostasis. When you're really down, it's good to work yourself back up to homeostasis. Not have the big peaks and the big valleys, because there's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio of good vibes to bad, or not down vibes, high vibes to down vibes, or down vibes to high vibes. And then it just counters and it
And
goes
then like
back and forth.
your decision making in either peak is skewed, you know.
Totally.
You're like, in this, more homeostatic, even keeled, neutral state. But yeah, no, that's when you make bad decisions. That's when, and highs or lows, they're both bad. But I think like you having no TV, I think that's like extraordinary. I just feel like having that quiet, like quiet alone, and even just like growing up and stuff like that. Like I just remember like just the TV is just on, they're just on, and like if somebody walked in my house and like turned my TV on, I'd freak the fuck out. Like I'd be like, "What are you doing?" Like I'd completely freak out. And as far as news, and like obviously we have a lot of stuff that's been happening in the world the last couple of 3 years, and a lot to get worked up on. And and a lot of it, I didn't particularly agree with, but it was getting worked up, and I got to the point where like I banned myself from the news, I banned myself from Reddit, and I just removed those things from my life because they weren't serving me in any manner. It wasn't helping me, and to an extent, I want to like make a difference and shit, but like you're such a small piece in this thing, and it was just taking away from everything else I wanted to accomplish. Um, and again, even with the internet, like it's a constant thing of toxicity, and like as soon as something pops up and like it catches you, it's too late. You have to be so aware and get that shit off, and then when you're aware with the algorithm stuff, it'll stop sending you that same shit. But like this is one of the reasons we're at each other's throats, because like we're keep falling into our own bias, and then like that bias just perpetuates and gets that much worse. And then like our truth is so strong, and like this other person's truth is so wrong. And like when we have this disagreement, like I went from like I like literally want to kill you, like like if like a Russian tank like drove down the road, I'd be like whatever. But like if my neighbor disagreed with me about like the vaccine, like I'll kill him, like or something like that. Like I just feel like we get like so freaking high. It's almost like I feel like road rage is like one of these things where like
Mm.
we act exponentially out of character, like 10 million times more than we'd ever be in life, or even like I don't know, even like driving wise, like somebody trying to like just pass you to like a coming out of like a red light or something like that, and like this person just acted more aggressively or more assertively than anything in their entire life to like beat you to this thing. They just got like Michael Jordan competitiveness with Mario Andretti to like in this dumb driving situation, and like they have no like decisiveness or like motivation or aggression towards like anything in life. But like over this driving thing, they might have just like ripped your head off with their bare hands. It's just like, why did that thing pull so much emotion out of you that like nothing else in your life can get you to that level? And it's like
Mm.
so unnecessary, and just like we're ready to like explode and like fucking kill each other.
Mhm. Yeah, it's silly, man. I think the thing that's really interesting, because I look at so right when you said road rage, I was thinking of like the YouTube fail army videos, and sometimes there's road rage specific ones, and I love watching them. I like watching the fail army win and the win army, or whatever the opposite would be. I like watching both of those because it's very interesting. It's cool shit, man. But what I found is I think that because we observe, uh, if we lack a sense of self and we continue to observe extreme bouts of outbursts and behavior, like road rage. I thought that was a great example. Uh, it's we when we keep watching it, we recognize or we see it as appropriate behavior.
Right.
And I think when we really dial in that sense of self and we actually look at how other people are behaving and think, you know what, sure, I may be feeling what I perceive to be similar to that person over there. However, I recognize that I am in control of my actions, perceptions, and behaviors. And I really don't want to behave in that way. And by being able to kind of modulate the content consumption, I think that that decreases so much stress. And just I think it really gets the person, or at least for myself, it got my head out of my ass, which was so far up my ass that I was looking out of my mouth. And in recognizing this kind of like silliness of working myself up over and actively, I recognize when I was actively working myself up now as well, where I'm like, why is it that I'm trying to get myself all wound up over nothing, over doing this, that, and the other, and or just like making things more difficult than they really need to be, and they don't need to be. And I think that's a really cool thing too, is like whatever we approach or whatever we go for is always going to be as difficult as we make it. But we have so many opportunities to make things as simple as possible. And I think when we zoom out, kind of like that saying where we get to see the forest for the trees, when we zoom out enough, we're able to see the whole picture rather than just that one tree. It's like for like progress in health and fitness, people always use weight as the significant indicator of progress. However, that is just one tree out of the forest. There is also how you feel, how your clothes fit. There's subjective and there's objective markers of progress. There are what I like to call principles of progress, where how you feel is irrelevant to having to partake in the activities to get what you want. So I'm not motivated to go to the gym. Well, are you going to wait until you're motivated, or are you going to do the thing on robot mode and still go through the motions and still partake in the process? And man, I'm just on a solid tangent on this one. But
Mhm.
I I definitely find that when there is, I think that it's just really looking and thinking, you know what, I just want to have good intentions. I just want to be a good human being and try being a good human being. I think that there's always going to be, like, humans are fallible. We're always going to find ourselves messing up. And I think that when we do mess up, one, it's completely rational to expect ourselves to mess up. But I also think that's very appropriate to have grace with ourselves in those times that we mess up so that we can create that stability internally. And then our our perceptions are our reflections. If I am chaotic in my mind, my world is going to be chaotic no matter what. No matter what I objectively see, if I perceive it as is, it will be. So it's
So
kind
there's a lot of things like, what's the measurement or what's the metric of whether it's, workout success or life success?
of
And, a lot of times I ask people, how do you feel? And a lot of times, like, people are like, say like it's like keto or something. Somebody lost like a shitload of weight. How do you feel? I feel awful. Well, that's not good. You know, like is it worth living a life that sucks just to be 20 pounds less? Like, screw that. And just like, even like your success mechanism or what you consider success, like, it's only relative to what I want or what I consider success. But like, so many people are going up off what everybody else considers success, and like they don't even want that thing.
Mhm.
And then I just feel like when we're constantly reaching for shit, we're never happy. It's the whole gap in the gain thing. You stay in the gap, and then you're just always reaching for something, and you're never, you're never where you want to be. And I feel like also with some of these toxic environments and things like that, like, We know we shouldn't be in them, but we continue to put ourselves back in them, whether it's because we get like a rush or whatever it is. And I feel like sometimes even with me, with some of the news and things I was ingesting, like it was like I know it was bothering me, and I almost put myself back there because I was like trying to get like riled up. And I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? Like it's not serving you in any manner, and it's like certainly not helping your business, not helping your family. It's not this. I mean, it's cool to learn and stuff like that, and like that was one of the things I didn't really like about like stop watching news because I feel like you lose touch with what's going on in the world. But like everything's freaking negative. Like none of it is helping you, you know, and half of it is a lie or bullshit or whatever, or like propaganda or something to get power or some shit like that. But you gotta look like it's only relative to what you want. I just feel like we fall into what society wants, what they tell us. But the thing is, we're all such sheep that we like everybody falls in line and just and I just feel like like who would you be if nobody told you who to be? And I almost feel like nobody's
Mm, mm,
asking themselves that, and it's like and like I'll say it's like all right, say like we'll say like music or something. I don't know, say like the big Ed Sheeran song or something like that. Like you put that on, you're not sure if that's a good song, but if 100 people tell you it's a good song, that's the best song you ever heard.
mm.
I'm like going off like what you think or whatever. It's like the perception of everybody else, or like you want to know, how what everybody else's opinion on this thing was before you form your own, and like you're just like uh, complying with everybody else, and I think that's a huge problem with what has happened in the last couple of years, and again, it's just like so black and white, and it's like love, hate, no in between, and just like, and that makes us want to freaking kill each other, and just it just perpetuates shitty behavior, and nobody is really like um, acting in alignment with what they want. It's with what everybody else wants, or just like just following along, and it's just crazy to me that like the power of psychology and like how much power the news or whatever else has over us, and the way they can make people freak out and panic, and whether it's buying toilet paper or milk or whatever it is, like everybody goes and does it, and then like you see everybody else doing it, like oh shit, should I do that too? It's like it's just it's a crazy world. I feel like so much stuff is like perception is reality, to an extent with a lot of things, but just like I don't know. I have this whole problem with like I just feel like I'm like nothing is what it seems. Like nothing is real. Like all these people that are projected as like the heroes, like God knows what they're really doing. And just even like with like selective outrage that like one person does a thing, no problem. Somebody else does it the same thing, they're like crucified. And it's just like, why are we looking at these two identical things so differently just because of who the person is or what's around it? Or like it's acceptable for this person, but for this person, it's like the worst thing ever.
Totally. I use I use incongruence as an indicator of intention. I find that if people are, I break things down where you're working from a place of either compassion or a place of judgment. You can't be one or you can't be both at the same time.
Even if like you're coming from a place of love, you can't be from like a resentful place, right? So it's very,
Absolutely. That's absolutely it. And I found that in understanding the compassion, or actually no, this is a better way of putting it. So with that incongruence, I found that when we find or decide to have that congruence, because it is a decision, people believe that things are feelings when things are just things, and the feelings are based off the story that we tell ourselves about those things, because things are just are like I like I like the idea where the cup is neither half full nor half empty. It's just a cup with water in it. Why does there have to be an emotional attachment to it? That's silly. That's just putting effort and energy into an inanimate object that is not going to do anything. It's like, am I thirsty? I'm going to consume that water.
right. Yeah, I just feel like this whole thing that events are neutral. The way we perceive this event is what makes it good or bad or whatever it is. And like the easiest example is like I don't know. I guess we'll use a hockey reference or something. So like I don't know. Say like the Maple Leafs are playing the Flames or some shit. Hopefully those are still teams right now.
Mhm.
Um,
To my knowledge.
and so like the Maple Leafs win. There's a lot of people that think that's the best thing that ever happened. And then there's a lot of people that think that's the worst thing that ever happened. But it's the same event. We're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, So it's just like it depends on how you're looking at it. And I always like recently got into the whole thing of like, when you change the way you think of things, the things you think of change. And so much of it is how you look at it. So like if I start my day being like, oh my God, I gotta go fucking work out. I gotta go to work. Oh shit. Or like, thank God I get to get out of bed and go to work. Like I took a breath today. Even like this thing, it's like these people are like, it could be this thing like, I don't know, if somebody told you like, all right, I'm gonna give you $10 million, like, would you want it? And people be like, yeah. But like if I told you that if I gave you that $10 million, you're not gonna wake up tomorrow, would you still want it? And it's like,
Mm.
fuck no, I wouldn't want it. But like that $10 million was like the best thing. And like you were barely valuing your life before that. And now it's just like that $10 million is worthless. Like I'd much rather wake up than get $10,000, but for $10 million. But I just feel like so many people are so fixated on this thing and they're overlooking all the greatness that's like right in front of them, like it's just like an incredible concept that we never see. We always like take things for granted and we're always looking for something else, but everything we need, we have.
Totally. Totally. Ah, man. So interesting. So interesting. It is a crazy world because when you think of it, like 400 trillion to one is the odds of a human being existing. Like 400 trillion to one. Well, there's technically two of you, so that's even crazier on the same birthday
Like,
and
oh,
stuff.
well, we have like 400 billion sperm or some shit like that. So that's like coming from that ratio to like even get to this planet, right?
Totally.
Or
Well, it's
even,
like everything that happens. So the way that I like talking about it is, let's say your parents were 60 seconds off from meeting, you wouldn't
right.
exist. Now take that and extrapolate it to everything from that point all the way to the beginning, the start, the Big Bang, the creation, whatever
A
hypothesis,
couple of
and
small things could have like changed.
totally. And that's from the very beginning of time. So the moment of whatever subscription or hypothesis to the beginning of time, whatever happened, all we know for certain is that we are here. And that's it.
Right. Like a
There's
conflict like a brachiosaurus and like a T-Rex could have like changed whether I was born or not or something,
totally.
like
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know, man. I think that there is I think that the human mind is easily manipulated, and it could be either manipulated by ourselves or it could be manipulated by others. And the only way it can be manipulated by others is if we give people that option.
right. But I feel like nobody's like in their truth. And I just feel like we're so easily persuaded or easily so like why are like if I feel like doing something, I'm just a general person, like this is my view and I feel strongly about it. But then like if somebody else says it, I'm like I change quickly because like I have more trust in like what this guy said than like what I think about myself. Or like and people are always like, I know it's easier said than done, but like people are more concerned about what everybody else thinks about them than what they think about them. And like they're not even considering what they think about them. It's like, well, how do you feel about you? And like people don't even know. They've never even like, explored that or ever even like thought about it.
How would you coach someone through that process out of curiosity?
A lot of times, people are like, I want to be like this person, be like that person, or that person do this, or that person do that. And it's like, well, what do you want? What do you want to be? It doesn't matter what anybody else wants for you, but like, and like so many people don't do things. So many people don't start businesses. So many people don't start goals because of what other people tell them are like, oh, you can't do that. And then like they just take that as like truth. And like the whole thing is like, if somebody tells you that you can't do something or whatever it is, like, do you want that to be true? Because you must because you just followed through on somebody else's dream for you. Like, you know, you always got to give yourself to, is this 100% true? What would happen if I allowed myself to change that thought, to change that thought? But like, that's why like I feel like, it's so big making like, these promises to yourself and like doing what you said you would do. Who cares about anybody else? Like, if you said you were going to get up when the alarm went off, if you said you're going to go work out, if you said you're going to eat right, like those are wins for you. Those you're credible to yourself, or accountable to yourself. And like, if if your perception of today is like, I did well, I said I was going to work out, I said I was going to have 4 good meals, I said I was going to take a walk, I said I was going to meditate, I said I was going to do this work. You did those 5 things. Those are 5 wins. That's like self confidence, that's self credibility, and then it gives you more confidence for tomorrow to whatever you think you can do. And this perpetuates. Like, so this like success mechanism of what you want or how you perceive yourself, can go like this, and you just keep stacking wins and doing what you say. And and like, we use so much of our croc brain. So much of it, it's our croc brain that's like, we're just like perceiving whether like we're gonna and a lot of it is like, the way our brains were developed was so many years ago that like now a threat might be that like we miss lunch, but then a threat was
Mm.
like we were lunch. So like
Yeah.
all these risks like could end in death, but like nowadays, like if you make a mistake, like you're not going to get eaten by a lion, but like we still have this like croc brain that like sees that fear, instead of like it's so much easier to see the positive or the negatives and the positives, or like even in the workout sense. I always say to people, like, say like people are like, oh, I'm going to work out 5 times this week. They work out 4 times, they miss Friday, and they feel like it's the end of the world. And they might even quit because of that, be quit because they hit 4 out of 5. And it's like, what about the 4 workouts you did? What about the 20 good meals? Like, what about that? Like, you're not even looking at that. And like, I think we use something like 5% of our conscious brain. So like a lot of the decisions we make are just based on memories and, other perceptions, and not even like of what's even going on now. And I just feel like a lot of times, we're so caught up in the memories of what we think was going to happen. Like we already made a decision before this thing happened, and like we have no idea what this could be. We're so like pre-programmed. It's just we don't allow ourselves to think or just to expand on things, and I just feel like we lack so much awareness.
Mm. Yeah. I totally agree with that. So interesting. So interesting. It's kind of cool because like it's neat chatting with you on this because there it's I recognize the I recognize the that the things that we say to ourselves are habitual, and that the thoughts and the narratives that I had have over time become less and less prominent. And I realized that when I kind of figured that I was on the right track, and this is the thing too, is like I'm just going based off of an intuition where I just understand that I'm on the right track. I don't know for certain if I'm on the right track, but I know I'm pretty much in the right trajectory. And I think that because the head, the heart, and the gut all in alignment. And what I found is that it's interesting getting to the point where you challenge your internal dialogue so much, where I had this moment of just is is the best way of describing it, where I had a sense of is, where I actually was concerned because I wasn't thinking, and I was just kind of I was thinking, but I wasn't thinking. Like I knew that I was in the trajectory, and I know, or in control of those thoughts, and in the direction of the conversations. And what I found was that when we get to the point where we work down a lot of those external like narratives that people are telling us that we are supposed to listen to for this, that, and the other reason, or the sentence that I loathe is because we've always done it this way. Just because it's always been done a certain way doesn't mean it's the best way to go. And that progress and change is a constant in the universe, despite how badly we desire to keep everything the same. And so it's either going to go with the river, swim against the river, hold on to a rock, and then maybe just learn to swim a little bit better along the river. And then every once in a while, you look over and there's a beach, and then you swim over to the beach and you just hang out on the beach for a little bit. But then you hop back onto the river and then you just go. And I find that when I had the most difficulty, I was struggling to pull myself away from a rock or trying to swim against a current of change when I've just accepted kind of like what Bruce Lee says, you want to be like the water. You want to take the shape of the things in a way. So for myself, I'm thinking I want to take the shape of the person I envision rather than just take the shape of what other people are molding me into. And that was kind of a neat little thought on that one. Neat little couple of reflections, man. Couple of reflections.
Ride the wave. But again, I'll say it a million times. Like, I feel like almost nobody becomes who they want to be. Like, you're becoming who your parents want you to be, or everybody in society is telling you to be. And even in terms of like the way we speak to ourselves, the way we tell ourselves, and a lot of things like, even you're like, oh, I'm a dumb shit, or I'm a dumbass. Like, over time, those things are damaging. And like, if you wouldn't want somebody else to say it to you, like, sure as hell don't say it to yourself. I feel like
Mhm.
that's even like more damaging. Um, and in terms of like you with the whole is thing, or just like the thing of just be like, I don't know if like I've recently, I guess I was late to the party, but I've recently got into like Eckhart Tolle.
Nice.
And so like he's on a lot of that, like just be, or just it is what it is, or stop thinking. And I feel like a lot of his stuff is cool, or just like just think about like your room with like nothing in it, and like, compare that to your brain, just like open space or whatever, and just like, getting this clarity, getting all the clutter out of it. But I feel like it's all awesome points, and all this stuff. Like I just like, all these things I've come across in the last couple of years, where I've like in my growth and development, personal development, spirit. Like I'm like, why the hell didn't I do this like earlier? How come nobody told me about this? Or like, how come we didn't learn some of this stuff in school? Or like, I was just like, holy shit! Like, I can't even imagine where I could be if I could like, get my shit together, or like kind of understand myself so much more at an earlier age. And I know it's a little off topic, but I'm like trying to like be like, how can I like convey this to like my children, so like they live like this awesome life? They don't wait till they're like 38 to start living how they want to live. Just freaking. Well, I'd have to say for like kids and shit, they have like, that's why like I admire my kids so much, because they like, judgment. They don't shit. Like they just do their thing. They don't worry about nobody. And like sometimes look at that and I admire them. Like, you guys don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. But as we grow up, and we're wired not to take risks. So, and even like, I see myself with my kids. Oh, don't touch that. Don't do that. That's dangerous. That this, that. And like, that takes away from like curiosity, exploring, trying things, this and that. And of course, I don't want my kid to jump off the fucking couch, but like, that same thing is going to make him like not join the freaking robotic club in seventh grade or some shit, because he was like a little bit afraid. And it's like the same thing of like me being like, oh, don't touch that. Don't go to the outlet. And I know like, we don't want our kids to have like this huge risk, but like, as like children, we're like phenomenal in ourselves. We move beautifully. And then like, we have like no inhibition, and we're like awesome leaders. Like a kid can get like anybody to change their behavior, or um, like, I don't know, you say like a freaking big time coach or CEO trying to get everybody to like get on board or have chemistry or like do a certain thing. You have some like little baby cry in like a situation, everybody's behavior changes. If you just change everybody's behavior, or like, they want something, like they get it, everybody changes their behavior. And I just feel like we're like, as children, we're wired like perfectly. Like our instinctual things are like perfectly as like leaders, as not, and as we grow, we stop taking risks because we're scared. We stop like overstepping our boundaries. We're afraid to get in trouble. We're afraid to be ourselves. Like, and I just feel like from the time you grow up, like you're taking away from yourself. And like, and again, some of that shit you do have to learn. You can't be like, playing tag in the street or something like that. But there's a lot of things that we inhibit as children, and those things are the same things that hold us back from like being our best self, or being fearful later in life. And I don't know the best way around it. I don't know if like, I don't think you can really free for all your kids, but like, it's like, if you were never inhibited from like doing everything you wanted to do, like what would you be doing right now?
Mhm. I totally agree. It's that it is definitely that fine line. I think if I were to take a gander or if I was to take a guess, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with alignment, congruence, and uh, just making sure that behaviors and words are lined up. Because one thing that we were talking about before was when parents or peers or family members say that you can go ahead and accomplish anything you want. You can be whatever you wish to be. But we're also programmed by seeing more so than words.
Yeah,
And
and when
so if someone's saying it,
they're like, no, you're going to fucking college,
yeah, or if the parents are saying that they can do whatever they wish or do what they're capable of or anything along those lines, but then they are not living up to the words that they are saying, then that doesn't float anyone's boat. And then we find ourselves in a state of domestication. And a buddy of mine, Daniel, he says that the practice of rewilding, so rewilding is the antidote, or at least the mitigation of the symptoms of domestication, as I like to word it, where stuff like breath work or getting into the body, into the breath, into the being, celebrating the movement, celebrating this finite point in time where we get to experience this. And then the rewilding could be something simple like going for a walk, going out into the woods and just disconnecting for a little bit or just long enough that there is measurable progress in thought or trajectory in thought. And I think that rewilding process and just getting back down to the bare principles, the bare minimum, I believe it's Japanese. It's Japanese philosophy, pu, and that's breaking things down to the bare minimums, the absolute principles of progress, and then thinking of those, and then everything else is just either bonus or noise. And so I think when we recognize that there's that domestication, then we just shift like in a way where there's discomfort, or we are just have more awareness of what's truly going on around us rather than just what we're being told is going on around us. What is the observing eye seeing rather than the perceiving eye? Those are really good, is being able to filter between what is my subjective bias and what is the objective truth. And when we become more self-aware, what I found, at least for myself, is that I am objectively aware of my subjective existence. And that has created a sense of peace where I am within what is without. There is the in, then there's the out. And I recognize as I change the way actively I perceive things, there's been a lot more peace in that objective perspective when we understand which is objective and which is subjective. And that's where tranquility comes in.
Right. And like, you like to, I would say like the broad spectrum, like looking inward instead of looking outward.
Totally. Because we're always looking for solutions, but the solution's usually within us. Like, it's so funny. Man, this is like a whole philosophical tangent on this one, but it's known as the Solomon's paradox, where Solomon was known as the wisest person on the planet, and people would come around all over to get advice. And Solomon would just say, "Yep, advice, solid." And then his life was a mess. It was a clusterfuck. So in that, we already know all the answers to the questions that we keep on habitually asking ourselves. It's just that we find ourselves in that paradox where we know all the answers, but we just don't take any of the action.
Do you think like it's even a thing where like we want some of these answers to be a different answer?
Totally.
It's like um, rejecting the truth of the situation because but I don't know. I feel like the truth is probably more in alignment, and then the thing we want might be more out of alignment. We're just like we don't want to improve ourselves to get this place because we know that might take some work or like some sort of sacrifice, and we don't want to start going down that path. And this path over here is more comfortable staying where we are, but we know like the improvement is over here, but we're not willing to do that, even if it's just like a small commitment. We're not going to do it, just and just it's kind of a shame because like you're missing out on so much, or like so much of what you could be, or how you could see the world, or just like the peace you could have within yourself. But you're like, I said, like, but you're not even giving yourself a goddamn chance. Like, you're not even giving yourself a shot, and you have no idea how beautiful this thing could be. Like, you have no idea. And like, I'm not saying your life sucks now, which it might be pretty good, but like, if you like open up and expand and really look and become aware, it's gonna get better. You know, like it's not gonna get worse. Like, it just, you can open up and just see more things. I just feel like we're so like, I don't know, so just for whatever reason, like I'm thinking of like your dog with the cone.
Mm.
Like, you know, we see this much. You know, we got no periphery. We're not no panoramic view. We're not looking at the big picture, and everybody wants like instant gratification, and they want this thing now. And it's like, you know, anything that comes easily or comes quickly, it's probably not worthwhile. You know, anything that comes with sacrifice and, you know, putting your time in, that's like going to really give you fulfillment. But like, you know, anything quick, and like, you know, we can compare that to like simple things like shopping or doing drugs or whatever, just like, you know, this quick like thing. And then like, I think we realize that after that we're unhappy. So it's almost like, I feel like you pay it back with interest. Like,
Ooh.
you know,
Mm.
you feel better tomorrow, but like in 3 weeks you owe like $7 or something. You know, like you got ahead yesterday, but now you're behind. Instead of like maybe taking a small step back now, making a sacrifice, having some fucking gratitude, and then in 3 months be at this place that like you would never be at if you hadn't like held back on like this thing that you thought you needed, but you just wanted at this time, you know?
Mm. Yeah, the temporary kick. I think yeah, that's good. I think that so there's like the idea of delaying gratification, right? And delaying gratification in the sense of uh just not going with the short-term dopamine hits, the things that make us feel good in the moment, that once again have a 1-to-1 ratio. The whatever we take is going to have a 1-to-1 ratio. And it's kind of like how you said that interest. I like that you said interest. There is going to be interest that we're paying back every time that we partake in an activity or whatever it may be, right? And that could be in either there with every input, there's an equal output. And if there's not much input, there's not much output. If there's a lot of input, there's going to be a lot of output, and that could be modulated. And I forgot where I was going to go with that one, but oh shoot, where what were you talking about there on that one for a second?
I don't know. I thought maybe you were going into like maybe something like almost like a negative feedback loop.
Well, I think for the I like that idea though. The negative feedback loop in my mind is something that, well, it's habitual. 60% of our thoughts, I believe 60%, I could be wrong, but it's up there. It's over 50% of our thoughts that are habitual. There's very few new thoughts. So if we're able to change those habitual thoughts, then we develop new habits. And I
You know,
think, go ahead, sir.
I know, like, you know, you start putting these habits together and stacking them, your neurons fire together, they get used to it, and this becomes like the new normal. And as
Hmm.
opposed to like not doing this can become the normal, and that could be like going down a very negative path in the same type of direction. But you know, you know, there's definitely a give and a take, a push and a pull. Um, and I go back even like when you're like younger and like you say you go out and party and shit like that, and like, you know, the hangover or whatever, that's the payback. You know, like that's, you know, that's the interest. You know, it just um, I don't know. I don't know if I want to like in that manner to sacrifice. So like I'll sacrifice today for a better tomorrow, but like with like drinking or whatever, like I'm sacrificing. I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm having an awesome time right now, and I'm gonna pay for it tomorrow instead of the other way around. And not that like having fun is like a problem or anything like that, but I just feel like the way that we're wired and how like the party thing, and I know we're getting on a tangent, but I just feel like this whole like college thing with like drinking and getting like effed up, like that's like the focus or something like that, and it just like gets to a point where it's like, you know, what the fuck are you celebrating? You
Totally.
know, and I'm cool with celebrating things. Like, you accomplish something, celebrate it, and you ace these tests, whatever it is, you hit your workout, you hit your goals, whatever you want to do, celebrate. I'm all about it, but like doing it for no reason, like what type of gratification, or like what type of, you know, you're giving yourself like a positive reward for nothing. And then like if you don't have to like if your dog doesn't have to sit down and give you a paw to get a treat, he just gets a treat. He has like no purpose, like he has nothing to try to strive for or do better. I know I'm talking about a freaking animal, but it's the same type of thing.
I agree. I agree. Well, it's like I think of it like the animal being and the human being, and if our bodies are the animal being, like before we're 7 years old, is around the time that we start developing our character. Uh, and before that point, it's all information. It's all subconscious. So the what we see, we think that our subconscious is deeper than our conscious, but our subconscious is what we're seeing. Our subconscious is what is participating in this world, and our consciousness is what is directing the character. It's not the other. In my mind, that's how I've found
Conscious,
that it has had the organization. Say again, sorry.
so like the subconscious in the front,
Yep.
conscious
Yep.
in the back. It's like in
Exactly. Because there's type one thinking where there's the impulsive reactive, like an animal being, fight, flight, feed, or fornicate. And then it goes into human being, which is the consciousness, where there's unlimited capacity of possibility. Because the mind and the consciousness is not limited to what we have within our skull as well. And it can go outwards. And if we don't use that consciousness as the master to the pet, being our body and our being in this time, in this moment, then just like a dog without a purpose that hasn't been walked, it's going to go dig up holes. It's going to go destroy couches. It's going to create chaos because there is no progress. And if there is no, in either case, it's either perpetually progressing or perpetually chaotic. And it's just figuring out which one is the vibe that someone wants to go with. And sometimes we just gotta rein ourselves in and just think like, do I really want to keep on repeating this over and over and over again? Like, when is enough enough? Is this it? Like, do I want this to be it? Do I want more? What is that more? What does that even look like? What is the clarity behind that? It's interesting.
I feel like so many people are just accepting whatever the state is. Just it is what it is. I can't change. Well, I can change it, but I don't want to.
Totally.
Well, maybe I want it, but I'm not willing to put in the effort. The sacrifice.
Nice. So I got a question. Even though this is mostly conversational, I got a question for you because I think that this is a cool like question, especially given like the craziness of this conversation where it's very out there, which I really dig. So I think with all coaches or most coaches or someone that's trying to be partaking in life in acts of service, I think that there is the mess that it has turned into the message. So would you say that a pivotal point would be not being able to walk for 9 months? Or what is it that you went through that you now help people through?
Well, the injury was one thing, and I can't help people through the injury, but it's more so the mental situation that came with it. And I've gone through a lot of shit in terms of like, I had like, I was overweight for most of my life. Had like huge binge eating issues, social anxiety. I had ADD. Well, I actually didn't find out I had ADD and learning disabilities till my last semester in college, and I had like a 3.9 GPA or some crazy shit in organic chemistry. Um, but yeah, no, I struggled with a lot of stuff, not being able to find myself, always feeling like I'm not enough. I had a trouble with like, taking in love or like accepting compliments, things like that. Definitely with the traumatic injury that put me in a place. I've also had like substance abuse things. And, I think it all came down to like me not living in congruence with what I wanted. Or like once I felt stuck, I felt like this was it. So like, I would work, my ass off and shit like that. And I wasn't getting what I wanted. And then like, I would do drugs or drink or whatever it was to escape this place, I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I would just like, if I wasn't like working, I'd be like effed up and then just back and forth. And I never had clarity for what I wanted, but I'd given up. I thought this was the way it was. Like I could never get better. And even like where I am today, I never imagined I'd be here. But I just feel like my whole life I struggled with like everything. Like I feel like for me, everything that I did in my life was like so much harder than everybody else. Like, I didn't know I had the learning disabilities. I'm like, I studied my fucking ass off. And like, in high school, I finished third from last. So like I was the other two people I finished ahead of didn't graduate. So I was literally like the last person that graduated. In college, I finished third from the top in a medical curriculum. And it was always a struggle for me. And then like, when I found out that I had like the learning disabilities, it was like too late for me to like use it as a crutch or whatever. And like they wanted to give me like more time for like tests and shit like that. But I'm like, I got like 3 weeks left of school. Like the fuck am I gonna do with this shit now? But I just, I struggled with so many things in my life. And even in like my workout thing, like, I started working out consistently at 6 years old. Consistent. Like I trained more at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old than I do now. And like all I knew is I wanted to be better and I wanted to get to this place. I just didn't know how to do it. And I was always on this thing of like the more work you put in, the harder you work, the more you get out of it. And that's not so much the truth. You have to be a little more intentional and intelligent with it. And just between that, man, I just feel like, everything I ever did was like so much of a struggle. And like I've never had like clarity till I have now. But I definitely feel like, most things that people struggle with, you can count on it that like if you're struggling with it, I probably struggled with it because I have a fucking laundry list of shit that I struggle with, from anxiety, binge eating, depression, freaking suicide, the injury, not having money, house under foreclosure, car repossessed, like, borderline about to like lose everything. And then, doing drugs before that and just like, escaping shit. And I, I gave up. I gave up. And I feel like a lot of people have given up and they're just like content and they're just going to stay in this situation. And like, thank God, I think like maybe the suicide attempt had some like moment from God that was like, you know, you have more to offer. And then I feel like I got to a place where like, I've been to this place and I almost feel like it's like my obligation to help people. And then I guess another crazy thing. So like when that pneumonia story I told you about the kid. So like that's one of 3 times I've been revived. Like I've had no pulse and no heartbeat 3 times. Had to get like pumped to get revived to get brought back to life. And I feel like part of that is like part of like why like I feel like I'm here for a fucking reason. Like God would have let me go one of those times. Like none of those times that I should have made it. Like I think the one time my blood sugar was like 17. I was like unresponsive and fucking nothing. And then made that comeback, and then the anaphylactic. Another thing, I had anaphylactic because I have to wear this thing now because I'm allergic to penicillin.
Hmm.
I got penicillin, and I went into anaphylactic shock, and that's the other time I had to be like revived. And I was like 13 or so. And just like in general, I just been through like some traumatic shit. And a lot of family stuff and shit like that. But that's a whole nother, whole nother freaking thing to open the floodgates on. But I just feel like I've been through a lot, and it's time for me to pay it forward. And I'm just getting to the point where I just started being comfortable talking about, or talking about the depression and the drugs and suicide and things like that. Because early on, it was bringing me back there and making me upset. But like, I have to turn my pain into my purpose, and like my mess into my message, and kind of portray. Because I feel like I've kind of overcome these things, and I've got to a place, and the grace of God, like I never saw myself here. I never like, well, you don't know what being happy is or like how much better something is until you're there. Like you have no idea because all you know is that other thing. So, just like, and I look back to that life and like, I wouldn't do freaking coke if you paid me like $1 million. Like seriously. And like I was, I did blow every day for 7 years straight. Like just escaping my shit. And even in that time I was still like working hard. I was still training people and still trying to do my best. But I just given up, man. I just thought that was it. This is where I was going to be. I was going to be killing myself, grinding, working a million hours till forever. Like, I was going to make 40 or 50 grand a year. And like, this is it.
Hmm.
And I just feel like there's so many people, stuck where I was. And like, I wish I could have shook the shit out of myself a couple of times. Being like, what the fuck are you doing? Like you're so much more. And I just feel like I see so many people that they could be so much more. And, a lot of times I see it, but they don't. But like, you gotta fucking see it, man. Like, you gotta see that vision. Like, you gotta, and it's not like, all the most successful, happiest, whatever, whatever positive criteria you want to give for people. It's not like these are the smartest. Uh, we're born into the best families. I just feel like, it's like heart and balls, like that trumps intelligence, and I just feel like so many people are like, I mean, well, I guess like live like meeting your potential. Is that possible? I guess like your potential could be endless, right? So like, so I don't know. So let's say you can't meet your potential, but close to it. But I just feel like the average person is nowhere near that
Mm.
conversation. It's only like these people that are in these worlds like we are, where we're doing things, we're reading, we're journaling, we're doing breath work, we're meditating, we're finding ourselves, and like, every day we're trying to get better, and we are getting better. And the more we learn, the more we grow, and like, every year, day, whatever, we're going like this way, and then like everybody else is just staying the same, or even like if you're staying the same, you're going backwards. Like if you're not living, you're dying. Like, and I, just sometimes I just want to like smack the shit out of people, but like, what are you doing? Like you're miserable, and you're staying here. You're not trying to change this. Like, and I just feel like, substance is a huge thing. Like I feel like drinking is way too normalized. Like it's way too normal to come home and have a couple beers or whatever it is to, and like, again, like I'm not like whack, like, having a good time, I'm all about it. But like, if you're, so many people drink when they're sad, or drink when they're depressed, or drink when they're after work, and this and that, and that never ends well. Just like an escape or a crutch. And like, is this really making you happy? No, it's just making you forget about it for 2 hours before you fall asleep, and then go back into this shithole tomorrow morning until you get done with work, and then do it again. It's just like this endless process of this thing sucking. And I guess you're so numb or so caught in this hamster wheel, you don't know anything else. You're not going to try anything else. It is what it is. And like, me seeing people in that thing, it like hurts my heart. Like I'm just like, man, like your kids deserve more. Your wife deserves more. I'm just, yeah, I don't know. We just all can be so much better. And I've seen like where I've come from, like being like a complete like scumbag drug addict. Although I think I always had like good character, and I think that was like one of the things that like made me feel like I should be more. But like, even when I was like doing drugs and drinking, get fucked up, and just doing this cycle of freaking staying up all night or whatever it is, not sleeping, seeing the sun come up, um, and then put that into like the line of work that I was in, where I was getting like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night for like 10 years. Um, you know, my life sucked, and like I didn't know better. I was content with it, and but like I was suffering, and I barely even knew it. And I just feel like I could help people do the same thing I did, and just like I've come so far from where I was. And again, like I was a complete like shithead scumbag. Like I was just like unaware as shit. I wasn't good to my wife. Just in general, just like being an unaware piece of shit. And it's not even like you're trying to be a piece of shit. You're just unaware. You're just like, you don't see it. Like, and like for some of these people, they don't see it. And I want to like shake the shit out of them. Like I wish somebody shook the shit out of me at some point.
Mm.
And then also too, I feel like even with myself, like back to like what you asked me before, like, do you think you need like get like hit a rock bottom to like turn it around? Where like you really shouldn't. But like for somebody like me, like I was so like, I don't want to say I was know it all, but like I wasn't receptive to like help. I wasn't gonna ask for help. Even in like playing sports and like growing up my life, like I never like listened to coaches. Like I like you have this thing where you feel like you know it all. You don't need help, or you're like you're good, or like you got this. And like that is so far from the truth. And it's not until like I had these incidents and like joining Vince's program that I was like being like, wait, like these people have done this thing before you and had success with it. So maybe they have an idea of how they can help you, and just like, and that's where I am. I'll be like, well, you're in this shithole now, and I've gotten out of that shithole. So like, I could probably help you get out of that shithole too. And it's way more than fitness. It's just, fitness is just like this piece, but I feel like the fitness is the gateway drug of discipline and habits, and just pulling it all together and just being proud of yourself. And it's like the easiest way to like stack as many wins or get as confident as you can. Or there's so many ways to measure your progress, or so many ways to feel good about yourself. And I think that's where it starts with like you feeling better about yourself, and then you grow your confidence, and then this thing just kind of snowballs, and just like this way it can snowball positively, just as easily it can snowball negatively, and it could be a success mechanism, it could be a failure mechanism, which way you want to go.
That was good. That was good, man. That was really, really good. I let me take a second on that one. I just want to absorb that, slow cooking it a little bit, you know.
No, no.
Breathing into that one, that's a it's interesting. It's interesting because the way you were wording it, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've experienced it. Like I find this is a funny thing as well, is I find that the more aware I become of myself, the more awareness of other selves. I guess kind of like that thing where like attracts like, right? Like individuals, you're going to attract people that are on the same frequency or the same vibes. I like to say same vibes. And like even on my whiteboard over there, I say good vibes make for great guests. So I'm very intentional with the vibes part. But it's interesting looking back and thinking of that person that I was compared to the person that I am today. And it's it literally is like you want to go back and you're like, oh, what are you doing? And you want to shake. So
Sure.
that was a solid knowledge bomb there. That was a good drop, dude.
No, it's a thing, man. I'm just like, I didn't recognize it. I'm like, I see that you don't recognize it. And then sometimes, I completely tell people, I'm like, I see my old self in you. And like,
Hmm.
I feel like you're going through some of the same turmoil I am. And like, some people just are still just like, oh no, man, but they're still so closed. They're still so closed down in their thinking, and so, have blinders on, not looking to expand, not looking to, try something or take some other views and looks. And like, I just feel like, this world is like endless with possibilities. It's literally infinite, like you can do whatever the F you want, man. Like, it's like,
It's crazy.
I guess I had, had a problem, like a lot of, it led me to having more success with this because like, I guess I'm kind of like stubborn and headstrong with like if somebody else tells me to do something, I'm like, but like if I tell myself to do something, I'm gonna fucking do it,
Mhm.
I trust, or like, I'll do what I tell myself to do. If somebody else tells me something to do and I don't agree with it, I don't, I don't take it that well. Or like, thank God I don't have a boss or anything like that. Because like I listen to my boss, he's like my alter ego.
Yeah. I think I like the idea of having an alter ego kind of thing. Cause then, well, it's a like character design, right? Because who you are is just a character, right? And I'm just a character, and we're just playing. Like I'm an NPC in your game, and you're an NPC in my game, man. And I think when we figure out the ways that we can actually just make the process more fun to take part in, then it becomes a lot simpler too. Like gamification, love that stuff, man. Love it.
Enjoyment is key. Liking it is key. But yeah, comparing it to a game because it kind of is a game, right? I mean, even like a couple weeks ago, didn't like somebody suggest that like we might be living in a freaking virtual reality world right now. We don't even know if we're like in a real world or not right now. Didn't like somebody say like Elon or somebody went to some other tech giant or something? Somebody accuses us being in like some virtual reality like test or something.
Possibly. There is the philosophy of solipsism. I think that's how it's pronounced, but that is the philosophy that we are in a computer generated simulation.
But how would that start? It would have had to start so much longer ago, way before this shit existed.
Well, it absolutely would have. But think of it like this as well. We can take it down from our level of understanding, then we think of the game Sims, right? When we create the game Sims, like my girlfriend Kendra loves Sims. She was just like all over Sims. So that's why it's forefront of the mind. And you're creating a little world, right? You're just creating a little world with a bunch of little characters that you name, that you dress, and then it's basically the exact same series of events of creation that happens in the real world. It's just the duration of time is the difference in my perspective, where it takes a lot less time to get a lot more in a video game because time just moves quicker in a video game. So then, now that we have AI, now The question would be, if we were to introduce AI into The Sims, how long until those Sims characters would develop self-awareness and ask themselves the same question that we're asking ourselves?
It's
So
like,
that's just one layer. So then if I'm thinking of my consciousness, to which I think my consciousness is like, your consciousness is your universe, I'm a universe, and we're just a whole bunch of different facets of different multiverses, and you're just a alternate reality version of myself. So that's where we have that commonality, and the only difference between the two of us is our consciousness, if we're going all the way from the very point of time that everything began. It's interesting because we are always trying to figure out how things began rather than just enjoying the rewards of it starting.
I guess like someone would be like, well, who gives a shit about how it started? We're here now, and it's great. Like,
Totally.
why we got to go back and like ruin this good thing? I don't know what it was, but something else I wanted to come out. Something off The Sims, but The Sims is a pretty wild thing. Shit, something with The Sims, but The Sims is fucking incredible. But it is
Yeah,
all
it's
about
pretty cool.
speeding up the time, right? And like just seeing what would happen. But like when these things start thinking for themselves and reprogramming, that scares me a little bit.
Totally. Yeah, it's I definitely think that with great power comes great responsibility. Definitely inspired by Spider-Man, and definitely adopted as a one of my philosophical approaches for life, or a mental framework to keep me in check.
I don't know. What the fuck? There's something I wanted to go into that was kind of off topic but similar, but something real crazy. Can't go with it, but something that was from The Sims. I guess maybe the metaverse will be some shit like this. I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like people are already putting the TVs on their faces, and then it's just going to go from there. It's craziness. Like, and then all the apps in our phone now, they have like virtual reality simulations. So like Pokemon Go, for example, you're walking around and you're looking at a Pokemon that is standing on the sidewalk in front of you. Like that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But
Falling.
say again, sorry.
People were like walking off cliffs and falling in water and shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
pretty sweet. So my man, you definitely we definitely had like a solid chunk of different rabbit holes that we went down. So there's a solid chunk of knowledge bombs. Got the head, the heart, and the gut a couple times in there. I know I mentioned that before. And then I just wanted to acknowledge you, man, and just say that you're good vibes, dude. You're doing good, and you're gonna be doing good. And the stream of consciousness, the thought that you got going on, it's I see that there is going to be some really, really good stuff coming up. And I'm pumped that you're on this podcast. I'm pumped that we got to communicate and chat and go down a deep dive of just consciousness, I guess, this kind of out there woo style. And yeah, man, I think you're good stuff, dude. I think you're good stuff. I think you're gonna do well for many.
and that's what I picked up from you. I just felt like the vibe was dope, and I just was like, whenever I first messaged you, like, I don't even know what it was, but just something like, yo, your shit is cool, it's original, it's you, and the whole thing with like, I don't know, like most dudes that are into working out, I feel like they're fucking losers, man. Like, I don't know what it is, but like, I don't have many like workout people that work out that I'm like friends with. I just feel like they're just like, well, a lot of people that work out are people that were like born that way or like born jacked, and they have this weird fucking mindset, and they're cocky and they're fucking pulling up their abs and shit. But I feel like it's different if you come from less fit to being fit. Just like I feel like it's similar to like if you're born into money or you make money, your perception is very different on how you behave. But I just feel like so many like dudes that are into lifting weights are so like whack and arrogant and just like into themselves and just like no outward thought or just like robots. But so like when I see somebody that's into this thing that's a little more like philosophical, a little more, I mean, like, right off the bat, like I can tell you, like you're super well read, like your vocabulary is fucking nuts, like it's
Thanks,
fucking
dude.
it's good shit. I like it.
I appreciate that a ton. I appreciate that a ton. Uh, cool question. Before I get into the final two questions, is there anything that has to be said that hasn't been said?
I mean, I guess that's a broad thing. Um, yeah, I don't nothing I can really put my finger on being that vague. I feel like we cover some serious ground in all types of nuts directions.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with that one. I like to have that question just as a just in case. It's always good to have it as politeness. So going into the final two questions, my friend. Uh, you've already been in this particular predicament 3 times. So I think you may have probably reflected on this, but let's say it's the final time where you're at the end of your days, you're on your deathbed, the people that are around you, that love you, that are inspired by you are around you. And you have one piece of advice that you can pass on. No content of yours exists, just that one piece of advice that people can take on for the rest of their lives.
So I feel like this was vague, but like as dialed down, be you. And I just feel like this whole thing when I told you about and I've only had this conversation with one person, a particular client I had that he'd been like shot like 12 times, like through his face and all this shit. He was a cop in this crazy situation. And I spoke to him about this thing where, this is what happened to me the times when I was revived. Like when people say they see the light, like that happens. Like you literally see this fucking light, like, and like your life flashes before you, and like you see like so many memories like so quickly. And I'll also preface this too. Like I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and some of them feel pretty good. Nothing feels like that. Not that I'm telling anybody to go there, but like since I've been there and like I've kind of like had this revelation or kind of like been dead, it is the most incredible fucking euphoric feeling of like excellence you could ever imagine. It's so undescribable, and it goes from there to like the most ridiculous urge to sleep that you can't fight. And I know like with this one particular cop that I got shot all those times, that I had this conversation with him, and like I'm like, holy shit, man, like that's it, man. That's the thing. Like you literally see like this flash of fucking light that's like enormous, and you have like these beautiful feelings, and then the urge to sleep is just like you can't fight this. You're out, and not that I want anybody else to experience that, but that's part of the reason why I feel like, yeah, I really got to pay this thing forward, because like I feel like not doing that is like an incredible disservice.
Nice. That's a great answer.
Sure,
That
thank you.
was I like the extrapolation of the BU. So BU is absolutely great, and then your explanation on that was freaking stellar too. All right, so the final question. This is a fun one. This is a good one. So the very best version of you, the best Ryan Godleski, is standing next to you or sitting next to you now. What piece of advice? So this is like future you. What piece of advice would that Ryan give you for this specific season of your life?
Keep going, keep
Thanks.
going. Don't give up. The roads get rocky. The waves get big. The fucking winds get strong. The storms get fucking raining down on you. You keep going. You keep pushing. You keep trying to spread your message. You don't let anybody hinder from like this thing that you want, because again, success is what you want. It's not what anybody else wants. It's not anybody else's vision. It's fucking yours. Like, and be fucking you. And we're all created. None of us were the same. God created us all to be special people. There's only one fucking Ryan Godleski. I want to make sure that motherfucker leaves a legacy.
Nice. Very cool. I dig it. Well, that's what I've got for you today, folks. Where can people find you, Ryan?
Ryan Godleski Fitness on Instagram, that'll come up, and then Ryan Godleski on Facebook, and then it's Ryan Godleski Fitness on TikTok, and I just signed up for Threads, and that's also Ryan Godleski. So it's pretty much my name, RyanGodleski, and I also feel like that God to start the name has something to do with all of this.
Oh, nice. I like that. I like that. I would say the same, but my last name's Smith. I don't know. You can kind of just put me in a anywhere.
That's
If
wordsmith.
it's Sweet. Well, folks, if you love today's episode, please do me a favor right now. Take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram stories, and tag me with my handle at Dapper Dude Kyle, along with at Ryan Godleski _fitness or fitness. It'll pop up. This is one of the ways that we grow. And until next time, my friends, keep up the kindness, and I hope your day treats you as good as you look.